Hey guys, it is January 11th, 2026. I wanted to take this moment to make this video kind of going over the scanning process. I've been asked this quite a bit, and RGV kind of went ahead and asked me one more time. So I figured, you know what, let me just kind of turn this into a good little educational video, kind of going over making a universalist and then getting to your final product. So what makes getting to your nightly process a little bit easier is you kind of have to go through the pain in the ass task of first making your universalist. Now, your universalist, realistically for me, can consist of 100+ stocks, right? The stocks with the highest momentum, the stocks that might have the cleanest setups. Now, for some of you guys, it might even be a little bit larger. And part of why that happens is because if you're not trading with a really large portfolio, you can actually extend the amount of names that you can trade. As your portfolio grows, your universe actually gets a little bit smaller of the names you can actually trade. And I just kind of wanted to go over the process, some of the screens that I look at, whether it be Finviz, probably one of my favorite tools. Deep View is another really good one. I do have some scans built into Thinkorswim. And then as you're sitting there throughout the trading day, and then maybe at night, you go through what were the biggest movers at night. If those had a big pickup in volume like AEVA, that should at least make your watch list in general, and then you kind of track it over the days to come. And sometimes, like in AEVA, they give you a really nice entry on day 2, day 3, and maybe even on day 4 for a potential big move. So just kind of wanted to make this video of what are the scans that I'm going through, and then how do I put together a universalist, and then with that universalist, how do I take it a step further, and then how do I kind of refine it down every single night, and then kind of put together my final watch list every single evening. So first thing is first, just to make sure you guys are still with me, I'm pretty sure we're still recording here. I wanted to kind of zoom on in to Finviz and what it is that I'm looking here, I'm looking at here. I've got multiple screens built into Finviz, and one of them being, let's say, the highest momentum. So I normally will start with like my equal weight. I like to know where money went today, where money left. Okay, once I start to get a better idea of that, and I start to say to myself, okay, for the year, or really since the beginning of the year, they might be acting like, and then how are they acting, right? I really want to take my eyes off of the groups that aren't acting very great. And then one of the things that I like to go through every single night, and really maybe even every single weekend, is just this ETF groups, right? Whether it be your industrials, your genomic names, your ARC related names, and the beautiful thing about Finviz is you can see how these things are acting right off the bat. And then you can just go right into performance. You can go to year-to-date performance. You can sort them by the top performers over the year. And right off the bat, you can see that the Bitcoin mining related names are acting best. I can click right on that. And then I could say to myself, okay, who are the most liquid? Who are the biggest? Who have the most weighting towards this ETF? Why is this ETF acting so dang good? And right off the bat, I know iron is iron. I've seen the chart a million times. And just to kind of put that into perspective, I just go right onto my chart. I will look at iron and say, you know what? This thing has shown you the ability to make a very clean linear move before. So that's a name that I'd like to pay attention to. And what are we doing? Are we potentially bottom hanging out right near the 50? Okay, yes, that is going to be on my universe, right? Similar story. Cypher. Okay, what does Cypher look like? And by the way, guys, this is going to kind of be that process that takes you the longest time. And your universalist is always being refined. Names are being taken out based on their action. Names are being added. And for me, some of the qualifications are, have they shown you the ability to make a big move before? Do they trade enough dollar volume? Are they in a theme that is currently doing well? Well, the Bitcoin mining ETF, WGMI, is actually the leading performer this year. So I have to pay attention to that when I'm looking at WGMI and what are the high, and of course, it's all about where you started the year. So, of course, this is, up 17, 18% from the year. And that's also because it got its butt kicked to close the end of the year. But that doesn't matter to me. It's what is performing right now. And again, a name like Cypher, a name like Hut, a name like APLD, these are all going to be on the radar, right? Hut's not doing anything wrong. So, of course, I might not have an entry on Hut and I may not necessarily love APLD, but this is a name that has to remain on watch. You had earnings and it kind of wicked up off these highs, and then all of a sudden you come right back. This isn't Aunt Susie, so I have to just throw my opinions out the window and say, hey, there is somebody buying this on massive volume. I better be paying attention to an APLD down the road, especially if it's going to give a clean technical setup, especially if the group is going to be acting well. And that is something that I like to do, and I don't have to put all of these stocks within the group. I don't need Bitfarms, I don't need Core Scientific, I don't need Hive, I don't need Riot, right? I look at some of these charts and I just say to myself, not good enough, right? If I'm going to look at a chart that's gotten beaten up and is basing, I would prefer to have Iron on my list. I'd prefer to have Cypher on my list, right? And again, always think to yourself, recently, what have been the market leaders, right? I'm going to quickly be able to look at like an LRCX, right? And I know that this is a monster. I'm going to be able to know KLAC, I know TSM, I know Google, obviously Tesla, the biggest names in the world. I already know what Meta looks like. It's kind of excluded. I know what Microsoft and Apple look like. They're being excluded from that watch list. Doesn't mean you're not familiar with them, but even a name like Hood, even though it's not perfect, right? I'm going to kind of leave it on the radar. Even though Nvidia is not perfect, I'm going to leave it on the radar. They're highly liquid. They when they can get moving, they can move the market, and they've shown you the ability, like a Hood, even though it's not perfect, to make a big, clean, linear move up. And I want to make sure that those are the kind of stocks that I'm paying attention to. And then taking it again a step further, saying, okay, WGMI, one of the leading performers this year, SHLD, which is the Global Defense Tech ETF, and what's in there, Lockheed Martin, probably not a stock I would trade because it's just maybe a little touch too slow and starting to turn off the bottom. You move 3% per day. I mean, maybe I could. You're starting to have some big volume churn through here. This is pretty interesting. Okay, fine. I'll put it on my universe list. It might never really make the cut for my watch list, right? Raytheon, I know about it. Hold on, excuse me, guys, 2 seconds. Go ahead, buddy. Had the dog trapped in the office with me. Raytheon, again, RTX. What do I really think about RTX at the moment? Okay, steady uptrend, moves 2.4% per day, $880 million a day, plenty liquid, definitely a good trend. But I don't have to necessarily have it on the universe list because it's not really a name that I'd be interested in buying. Palantir is fine. What do I think about a Palantir structurally? Okay, maybe it's just basing for another potential move. Has to stay on the universe list every day. And then what is one of the things that I do is I will go through my universe list every single day. And from there, without having to look for a million new names, unless like an AEVA trades massive volume kind of hits you in the face and says, hey, watch me, I'll put it on the universe watch list. But otherwise, you really only have to go through your universe list to find exactly what you want to trade. So that's part of the process that I'm doing. I'm going through, some of these sector ETFs. Makes it pretty easy to go through some of the top performers of the year and say to yourself, hey, even oil services, right in the middle of the pack. I can click on oil services and I say, what's moving the oil services based on their percent holdings, right? SLB, Baker Hughes, Halliburton. I own Halliburton. And you would say, okay, look, this is, almost a 10% weighting to oil services. SLB, does this one deserve to be on the radar? Okay, nice accumulation volume came in here, hanging out near highs, found support on the rising 5. probably one that deserves a good eye. Halliburton, probably one that deserves a good eye. And that's all you really have to do, is just have a couple of these on your radar. And when you're going through your nightly universe list, and then we got to talk about this part too, is you've got all these stocks on your universe list. Just because they're going vertical, this is part of the reason why I don't necessarily get FOMO. When I'm building a universe watch list, I'm looking for these strongest stocks. So am I just getting FOMO that all of the stocks that I'm quote unquote watching are going vertical? No. I'm looking for the stocks that have been really strong or are really strong, and now I'm looking for a clean technical setup that I understand. A flat base, a high type flag, a high volume close, a higher low setup, a undercut and rally. Like, what about this chart that is in my universe watch list is a technical setup that I understand? If it's starting to set up technically, I will include it in my nightly watch list video. And then I try to kind of compress my nightly watch list video to no more than 20 stocks. Otherwise, you're literally just kind of like a chicken with your head cut off, but you're ultimately trying to put some of the best names on your radar by doing this process of building out your universe watch list. Another one of my favorite scans is your high momentum scan, right? So stocks that are 70% off their 52-week low, so they've already shown you massive momentum. They're trading at least 2 million shares per day, at least over $7. That doesn't make them the most liquid stocks in the world. They don't have to be, but you'll notice when stocks are up 70% off their lows, they're above their 50 simple moving average. Their market cap is over 300 million. You could even take it a step further and go right over a billion if you wanted on their market cap. But then these are the stocks that you start to get. And a lot of these names you guys should be familiar with. And I could kind of screenshot this criteria. One of my absolute favorite scans, stocks with the biggest momentum. And we talk about this before, stocks go up, they go sideways, they consolidate, and then they continue higher, right? So BW, we should all be familiar with this stock, right? Problem for me with the BW, it's a little too illiquid, but this was a pretty nice setup in here. And guess what? BW was on the radar before it ever broke out, because this big move up, fit the criteria with the average daily volume that it was also trading. And so this would have been on there. ONDS, guess what? This one's been on the radar for forever on this scan. And this is not really tradable, but even in here, it was on the radar. ATXI AXTI. And by the way, if these are, again, a lot of these are going to be setups maybe that are not buyable at the moment, but something like Open on the weekly is starting to look pretty constructive. And so again, Open would be on, the universe list. Something like AXTI, with how strong it's been, that would make the universe list. And one of the things, of course, that I like to look at, right, is it at least trading $100 million? If it's trading, 80 million, maybe I'll still have it on there. And this is why I said, if you're trading a smaller account, your universe list could actually be a whole lot bigger. For me, I try to make sure that I at least only have stocks that are trading $100 million a day. Obviously, SNDK was on there long before, and this is a name that no matter what is going to be on the universe watch list. MU, WDC, WDC. Wayfair is another one, actually, considering how nice of a chart this is. WDC, STX. Of course, these names need to be on your watch list. Some of the gold stocks, right? NEM, AEM, KGC. Again, you just know what they look like, and it's good to just have these on your radar, right? A Barrick Gold. And just as you see so many charts, right, your universe list starts to expand and expand and expand. And then when you start to see technical setups that you understand and charts that are in uptrends, right, again, that's ultimately how they make it on your radar. And this scan here will pull up all of them, right? Bloom Energy, another one that should be on your radar, right? SATS has been a beast. This thing should be on your radar, right? Even your QBTS, no, not my favorite, but there it is. Here's AEVA, as it should be. And and we'll put that one on the radar, and LITE and CIEN, even though they're not perfect at the moment. AAOI is another one, and then you move on to page 2, right? And this is part of where I grab so many stocks that are like a UAMY, right? I would look at this and go, you know what? This doesn't need to be on my universe list, right? So even though it's on this screener, it's not going to make my universe list. A Rocket Lab definitely makes the universe list, right? You should already know what else is moving in that sector. You've looked at these stocks a lot. PL, KTOS. And by the way, these names, HWMY, HWMY, is that right? Oh no, sorry, it's KRMN, jeez. KRMN, KTOS. And so you're going to have these stocks on your radar. And again, you're just going to sit here and look through these beautiful charts. You're going to say, well, ASTS is another, VSET is another. And a lot of the stocks with the best momentum is exactly where you want to be focusing. And this chart will pull up all of here's your EOSE. We already put STX in there because we knew, it was acting so fantastic. Hecla being your leading silver stock. And you go to the third page. And you'll literally run through all of these stocks that an OUST is starting to turn up. We already know kind of what that looks like. And guess what? OUST, for me personally, trades 40-something million bucks. I can't really focus on it. I don't put it on my universe watch list, even though I am familiar with the stock. And I just continue to go, look, there's the pony that Nick's been talking about. Here's a robotics name, SYM. And SYM, if I'm not mistaken, does have enough volume for me. 125 million bucks. SYM is on my universe list. And what am I doing? I'm going through my universe list. This becomes the easiest way, personally, for me to put together a nightly watch list video. I do the task of spending a weekend, a few days, 2 weekends, 3 weekends, however many weekends it might take you, of going through the market, going through all of your Finviz scans. And again, I'm happy to post exactly what all of my Finviz scans are. This one's probably, I would say, my favorite, the highest momentum. UEC, another one that's a uranium-related name. And just going through all of these pages, figuring out what fits your criteria, what kind of dollar volume you need, and then going through that universe list and always saying to yourself, where's money been going? Where's money been leaving? What do my ETFs look like, right? I know these crypto miners, aka old crypto miners, have been acting really well. So keep an eye on IRIN, keep an eye on HUT, keep an eye on Cypher, keep an eye on an APLD. These are very important. And looking through those ETFs and then looking through your watch list and saying, what are some of the leading groups this year? And then are any of these kind of stocks, they should be on my universe list. Do they have a technical setup that I understand? If they do, then it makes your cut on your watch list. And now lately I've been kind of, putting together my watch list on here because, I've been showing some charts on TradingView. And then that's really it, right? Just taking charts that have made the cut in your universe watch list, looking at them, saying, this is a setup that I like to trade, right? Like Ford was on my universe list, right? And then all of a sudden you've got a Ford, and Ford had a nice flat base breakout. Let me kind of scoot this over. Ford had a nice little flat base breakout. And then so it's just a matter of putting that on your watch list. And saying to myself, hey, that's a setup I trade. That's a setup I'm familiar with. And a little inside day, which is exactly why I had it on the watch list on the evening of the 7th. And that's it. It's just going through the tough part. And that's the tough part that, it's a little time consuming. I won't even call it tough because once you have the scans built, there's a love for wanting to figure out where the hell money is going, where money is leaving. And that's really just kind of how I look at it. Just go through all of my charts, right? All of them, whether it be, these UMAX, GH, right? That's where GH hits my radar to begin with, right? It was from the scanner. Serve Robotics was another one. Carvana, Barrick Gold, GFI, right? All these names that I keep mentioning. Joby starting to perk back around. And if I look at a chart and then I pull it up and I go, you know what? This thing is starting to look pretty dang good. Right? You've made this pretty big move up. you've created an entirely new sideways base, you've made another little move up, you've pulled back, right? Joby's got to be on the radar, and it's pretty likely that Joby's on my tonight's watch list video. And I would say something like the fact of, right, hey, look, this thing starts to get going over 1640s, 1650s. This thing looks pretty damn good. Even really over Friday's high, this thing looks pretty good for a potential continued move higher. And it's just a matter of putting together your universe list first. That's where you have to start. And then from there, you take it to what are the setups I like to trade? And then you take it one little step further. How do I kind of, bring that into a what groups are acting best? I want to make sure that I'm focusing on setups that I understand, tight setups that I understand. Like even looking at this SSRM, and I would go, dang, this thing looks pretty damn good. But, right, it doesn't quite trade enough volume, right? You've had this big move up. You're building out an entirely new sideways base. It's getting super, super tight in here. But some of you might go, well, you know what, Ariel? I'm trading with 50K, right? And I could put $5,000 inside this SSRM with how tight this thing is. And I would go, yeah, that's probably not the worst idea if it starts to break out. Again, your CCJ, your Reddits, your Alcoas, your AEOs, everything with momentum is going to be on this list. That's where we want to focus. The stocks that are going up tend to just stay going up. And then the inverse, a Netflix, stocks that are going down, Spotify, stocks that are going down just tend to continue to keep going down. Build out your universe list first, kind of bring that all in together into a nightly watch list video by going through your universe list. And by the way, when you have your entire universe list set, you realize how easy it is for me to just sit here and go, that looks a little crummy, no thanks. Oh, that's a nice uptrend. And by the way, this was on my universe list, and going, you know what, this thing looks pretty good going right through there. AEVA, really nice volume. I didn't take it on this day, but that would have gotten my attention. APLD, nice move up, needs a little bit more time. ASML leader, nothing to do with it. ASTS, a little more sideways, another higher low, maybe I'd get involved. And just thinking through to yourself, what's the setup I trade on these stocks? Higher lows, flat base breakouts, undercut and rallies. Go through your entire universe list with your playbook in your head. Now, you have to, through time, build out your playbook, and hopefully that's something you guys are kind of learning from me, like what are the setups that you're personally trading, what's extended, what's not extended, and thinking to yourself, okay, BE's got awesome strength, what am I waiting for? I'm waiting for a higher low setup. BE does not make the cut to be on tonight's watch list video. There is no setup here, right? CIEN, there is no setup here just yet, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't deserve to be on your overall bigger watch list. And just going through every single one of these stocks on your watch list video, and I don't know why the hell that one hit that radar, but even a Google, okay, maybe Google is shaping up as a really nice flat base breakout. Okay, great. What would I like to see? In an ideal world, a little bit of a check back on Monday and then tighten up like 2 more days, and like Wednesday really take off. Is it buyable because it's not extended from the 50 through this potential flat base? Yeah. So guess what? Google will make it on tonight's watch list video, right? Tesla just starts to get back through the 50 simple moving average. I'll talk about it, but what would I like to see? Another day of push. Tuesday, a little bit of a check back. And build a higher low. Maybe I add some on Tuesday against the 50 simple moving average, and then just kind of thinking through bar by bar by bar what you'd like to see in some of the stocks within your own universe list, and then just saying, hey, I just scanned quickly through 300 stocks, right? Now, what is it that I want to see with each one of these, and are they clean enough to make the cut for tomorrow? So hopefully that kind of process and how I take it through on an evening by evening basis. And the other thing I'd like to talk about, I do go through some of these scans that are built on Deep View. But the real thing that I like to do, these will be like emerging stocks, with some volume. and your ALB, your analog devices, like these names will all be on there. And if I think that a chart's fairly clean, I will, and then I'll pull it up on Thinkorswim. As long as it's liquid enough, I will put it on my universe list. And then again, I'll just track it every single night, wait for a clean technical setup, and then always every single day while I'm sitting at the desk, say to myself, where's like Chipotle still underneath the 200, even though it's been acting well for the last several weeks, even the last month, it's just not on the radar yet, right? COMP would have been on the radar throughout this flat base. Right, Carvana still on the list. KRMN, absolute monster. Of course, this one should be on the universe list. And it's the same thing. Even charts that are showing that Dave Ryan kind of ants pattern, ACMR, FTAI, KRMN again, and SCCO, all these stocks will make it onto my universe list. And it's just a matter of waiting for your setup. Your eyes always need to be on the stocks that are acting best, ignoring the stocks that are acting worst. Yes, there are some instances when I even find myself trading a Coinbase, but that does not mean that that's the most profitable idea. Trying to buy stocks below the 200 is tough. It's doable if you think Bitcoin's going to start to turn up, and I think with the IWM ripping, maybe that's an idea, but that's a topic for a whole nother day. Continue to focus on doing the process of building out your universe list, going through your universe list to put together your nightly watch list video. And if you guys want a little bit more help as to the screeners that I do use for Finviz, just feel free to ask. Happy to kind of walk over, the criteria that I've got on here to go through these stocks. Right here are some CanSlim related names, stocks that are in uptrends with good earnings and sales, and an iron pops up again. So good earnings and sales, in a good group, because WGMI is a pretty good group at the moment and is potentially trying to get back above the 50. That's not bearish. So if it can get back above, look, Joby, back on the radar. So these are the kind of stocks, and I'm happy to kind of go over some of the filters to help pull some of these names, and then you guys work on building your universe list. Again, it all starts there. That makes your nightly process so much easier, and even throughout the trading day, where you just tell yourself, you know what, this thing maybe just needs 1 or 2 more days. Let me put it on my watch list for tomorrow. And it's just the simple thing of just taking out a little watch list and then adding stocks there for the next day. Makes your life a whole lot easier. And remember, you don't want to have 35, 40 stocks on your radar at once. You want to kind of condense that down to 8 to 15, maybe 20 at the most for any given day, with alerts set, potentially ready to go for the next trading session. So hopefully that kind of answers some of your guys' question. And if there's any kind of follow-up that you guys need, please just let me know and we will go over it. Cheers.